Welcome back to the F1 Breaking News Show. Breaking news, Sam. Fernando Alonso, debate about whether he's going to continue F1, get a new contract. He's 45 years old. Do you think Fernando Alonso would beat Verstappen in the same machinery, to use Nico Rosberg terms?
No. I generally don't think he would. Be closer than a lot of drivers, even when he was in his prime. I still don't think he would beat Verstappen nowadays.
Wow, even in his prime. Fernando Alonso scored points for Minardi on his debut, right? If I remember.
He did, yeah. But
Has Max done anything like that?
Scoring points on his debut. Well, he scored points he won on his debut for Red Bull. So, but I don't think Alonso's great. Don't get me wrong, Alonso is great. But I think Max does have him. What about you? I
remember last year, Fernando Alonso. Well, 2 years ago, I was in Monaco for the Formula One, and it was a Fernando Alonso train. I don't think you remember, like, the whole field was like backed up behind Alonso. Last year, Alonso went toe-to-toe with Verstappen in qualifying, and it was very, very, very close. And that's when the Aston Martin was really at its peak. So we never really got to see that battle. But at times last season, it seemed like Fernando Alonso was the driver who was actually closest to give it to Max Verstappen. So I would love to see it. There were rumours about Fernando Alonso going to Red Bull. And with contracts up and the Red Bull situation...
Yeah. Anything could happen.
Anything could happen. So, yeah, Fernando Alonso beating Red Bull, we'll see. Another sort of veteran driver, Lewis Hamilton, moving to Ferrari. Interesting question a lot of people are talking about. The fact he's losing Bono. I think Bono's been by his side for all of the 6 Mercedes F1 titles. Do you think, from your experience in real-world racing and professional karting...
I think him losing Bono is going to be a massive issue for him. You got to remember, he's had all these years with him. He's got the friendship. He's got the relationship with him. They know how each other works. They know all their code words and stuff like that. Yes, he's obviously going to learn new code words with Ferrari, but I think it's going to be. I think personally, losing Bono will be the biggest downfall to this swap over everything.
I'm fascinated by the Lewis Hamilton Ferrari move. Like, I think it's a move that's great for him on paper. I just don't know if the whole thing's going to work or not. And people saying now, are Ferrari going to try and break their contract with Hamilton and just promote Behrman up instead? Because Behrman came in and beat Hamilton. He beat Hamilton.
He did. Behrman is the future. But I can't see Ferrari. I mean, it's not going to be cheap to get rid of Hamilton. And the amount of revenue he is going to bring in. Just think, all the people you currently see walking around with Mercedes hats, Mercedes t-shirts, all of a sudden they're all going to buy a whole new wardrobe. Ferrari, everything, all the replica, crash helmets, everything. Hamilton is a massive hype train, and wherever he goes, no matter what team he goes to, they're always going to sell merch.
Yeah, Mercedes F1 brand would be a fraction where it is without Hamilton, now I think about it. So, yeah, Hamilton and Ferrari is just going to look right, sound right. But behind the scenes with the team, and we've seen Ferrari strategy, like Lewis Hamilton being very vocal about Mercedes making these missteps with the car design recently. How is he going to be at Ferrari? Charles Leclerc's used to this comedy show there. But Lewis Hamilton...
Well, you hear how vocal he gets when Mercedes get it wrong. We've all watched Formula 1 for the last few years here recently, and Ferrari, their strategy is... It's laughable. Literally laughable. So can you imagine how irate Hamilton is going to get with this strategy?
I'm here for that. I'm looking forward to it. And we've said before on the show that the Charles Leclerc-Lewis Hamilton pairing is just absolute dynamite. And we really rate Leclerc. So we will see. Continuing with the driver sort of roadshow, George Russell making some really interesting comments where he's basically been saying that he's been seeing a lot of drivers' names pop up on Toto Wolff's phone.
Looking over his shoulder.
George Russell's been staying at Toto Wolff's house and everything. It's all. I don't know if George Russell is like always trying to like work out who his teammate's going to be. Kimi Antonelli is the big name.
He's the big rookie.
He's a rookie though. He's an F2 rookie.
He was the biggest rated rookie, but the way Behrman's come in there, he's made. I know he's had the extra year in Formula 2 over Antonelli, but the way Behrman's come in there, he's blown him out of the water.
Ferrari driver there, Ferrari Academy driver.
Exactly. Did they sign Hamilton too early?
I think they have signed Hamilton too early in hindsight, because Hamilton is not doing a great job this season. We know the car's difficult, but he's being beaten by George Russell and he was beaten by Behrman.
Yeah.
I think also you think about someone like Callum Ilott, who was in that factory program for a long time.
Yeah.
Now he's doing IndyCar, very talented driver. Someone I've spoken to before. He might be kicking himself a little bit that he just wasn't there at the sort of right time.
Yeah.
But Ollie Behrman was a great success story in Saudi. And so much of a success story that Gunther Steiner has been making noises. So the ex-Haas team principal, now doing a lot of pundit work, has been saying that Behrman's going to go to Haas. It's nailed on.
Well, you'd imagine that he's got still strong links with Ferrari employees. You'd imagine he would. If Gunther says it, I reckon it's going. Oh no, I reckon he's going to place Magnussen. Out of the two, who do you reckon?
I mean, Magnussen did that heroic drive for Hulkenberg in Saudi. I just think the driver lineup is just a little bit tired. I feels really harsh saying it because they've done some really good jobs. Like Hulkenberg seems to get through to Q3. You know, when the car shouldn't allow him.
Yeah.
They might be really overpulling that car and giving great driver feedback to the engineers. But it brings me on to a wider point, which is that we were talking earlier before we went live about Mark Webber coming in for Minardi, driving an absolute dog of a Minardi, and getting P6, a point on his debut in Formula One. You just don't have the opportunity anymore because the opportunities are not there. There's no rookie drivers.
Well, exactly. We've got all these teams who they say they're not junior teams, but we know they are. Haas is a Ferrari junior team. RB's a Red Bull junior team. They're all there, but they're not getting the chance to. Williams, essentially, the Mercedes junior team. So that's 3 out of the 4 manufacturers have a junior team, and they're not bringing in the fresh blood.
Yeah.
And that's what they need to do.
Do you think it has as a little bit of a legitimate reason that when they went with Mazepin and Schumacher, it just really did not work, like double rookies? Just, and now they've gone back to experienced drivers. Yeah. But you think someone like RB, Kashap, Sonoda and what is Ricciardo doing right now? Brings us on to Eddie Jordan, made some scathing comments about Daniel Ricciardo, saying he's a great smart to have in the paddock, but he does not deserve to be there. He's been doing a lot of promotion for the new F1 video game. Mm-hmm. It's one of these things where it's great to do talking off the track, but ultimately he had a terrible time in Saudi. Do you think Ricciardo's going to make it to the end of the season?
I think he'll make it to the end of. I think he will make it to the end of the season, and I think that might be as far as his Formula One career goes. End of the season, and unless some sort of miracle happens with him, I can't see him next year.
Let's say that he doesn't make it to the end, and let's say he has some bad results and he can't quite, and we'll get onto the midfield in Formula One, lots of interesting questions to talk about. Is it such a weird situation at AlphaTauri RB Kashap where they had Daniel Ricciardo injures himself, and they put Liam Lawson in, who does really well. They then don't keep Liam Lawson, put Ricciardo back in, then go back to Lawson. Would it just show all along they should have kept Lawson in the seat?
It kind of shows what a mess... It kind of shows what a mess the whole Red Bull Junior RB, whatever you want to call it, system is going on at the moment. You can't replace De Vries with Ricciardo, then Lawson, then back to Ricciardo, and then back to Lawson again. It's like, what's the point? It just doesn't make any sense. And bear in mind, they've obviously taken Ricciardo on from a very, very subpar McLaren, 2 seasons in McLaren. He was better in the Renault, but he wasn't amazing in the Renault.
By the end of the McLaren days, he was gone.
He's broken.
Yeah, he was literally broken. I think that's what Christian would have said.
Literally the same as Alonso when he ran with McLaren.
Yeah, very good point. Going on to now someone who's not having any troubles is Max Verstappen. We've got a note here saying, it's an interesting question to unpack. Could Max Verstappen be the greatest ever sim racer? Yeah. Because he is sim racing in between the races. At 3 a.m. in the races, he's up there sim racing on his laptop. He goes to the hotel. He's having arguments with the hotel manager saying, I need to have better Wi-Fi. Yeah. This man is absolutely obsessed. Do you think he could tear it up in sim racing? He's always said, by the way, that the sim racers are just better than him, faster than him, because they have more time to practice. But I don't know what this means if he just can dominate in sim racing as well.
How can they have more time to practice if he's ragging around the Formula One car all day? Gets back to his hotel, unpacks his laptop, and then he's sim racing all night. Wakes up what's he say about his Formula One car?
Yeah, so you could just, don't need to give all the feedback and whatnot. You can just go back to the hotel.
And races, but we know how great of a driver he is in Formula One. He's one of the top ranked sim racers in the world, comfortably.
I've raced him and he crashed into me.
It's everything about him. He just lives, breathes everything.
Terminator, we've called him.
Yeah.
That's our nickname now. He's just like, If you're another driver in Formula One, it's just scary to see how he's just advancing.
He's just a motorsport Terminator.
Right, 2025 Formula One driver market. So, lots of things up for grabs. We've spoken about Mercedes. Kimi is sort of lined up, but they could try and poach Behrman. I don't know what happens at Alpine, which just seems to be like on fire at the moment. You've got Gasly and Ocon, two really quick French drivers. Ocon, I think a really underrated driver, same with Gasly. What happens there?
So Ocon, you got to bear in mind, you have to remember, Ocon is a Mercedes signed driver.
Still. We definitely came through.
Definitely came through it, yeah.
He'll have ties there.
Yeah, he's still got his links. He's in my opinion, he's very outside chance to replace to teammate Russell because of the Mercedes links. Everyone knows he's fast. He's got Mercedes link. Is he a nice, safe option there? With Mercedes, so if we just concentrate on Mercedes, you've got Alonso. He's going to be blowing up the phone for that. Depending on what's happening with the whole Red Bull saga at the moment, Max, you can see him going there. Everyone, if they can't, Red Bull's obviously going to be top seat. Everyone's going to want Perez this seat. The next top seat open, obviously Ferrari's fully taken. You got Mercedes, and everyone's going to be blowing up that one.
Aston Martin, Fernando Alonso moves on. How's that going to be? Is Lance Stroll going to be at Aston Martin forever, or do you have a situation where Aston Martin, choose a different driver than Lance Stroll? It's to me, it doesn't seem tenable if Stroll is going to be consistently outperformed at level he has been by Fernando Alonso.
He's costing the constructors points massively.
Yeah.
I personally think once Aston get the WEC project going, I think Lance will go to that. Wow. I think Daddy Stroll's going to put him over into that, and then they'll open up a space.
That's a massive shout. You're saying Lawrence Stroll is bankrolling, reviving Aston Martin's failed WEC Valkyrie project to give Lance Stroll somewhere to go.
Well, I mean, he's not going to just say, son, we're done.
Yeah.
No more racing for you, son. He's going to put him somewhere. It can all work out. Oh yeah, I've moved over to this, help the Aston Martin thing. Then he leaves. He hasn't been kicked out. He's leaving to start a new project. He saves face there. Lawrence saves face by not kicking his son out of the team. He's just moving to a brand new, fresh start-up project. For me, it makes sense.
Do you think it's a bit back to front that if Lance Stroll goes, Lawrence Stroll goes from Aston Martin?
I don't think he will. Yeah,
it's so tied up.
It is, but he every time I've seen him on TV, he always gives me the impression that he's not there. Obviously, he's a rich man. He's always there for the money. But he actually looks like he's very passionate about Formula One. He's not just someone who's just in the shadows. He always seems really passionate. Every time he talks about it, he's always really passionate. Yeah,
that's what he's always said. He's very serious about bringing Aston Martin back to the top. And to be fair, last season, at times, they were the closest competitor to Red Bull, which a lot of people did not expect. In terms of other seats available, we've spoken about Haas. Williams, hard to imagine Logan Sargent is going to be in that seat for another year. So do they take a rookie? Do they take an experienced driver? That team on the ascendancy, do they actually need like a real old hand there?
See, I think personally with Williams, more of the driver leaving will be Albon. I think Albon's more likely to leave than... I think they're both going.
Albon to Mercedes? What do you think?
I think Albon to Red Bull. Personally, I think he's going to go back.
I think that will massively depend on the house of Red Bull politics going on. I don't know whose camp Albon's in, but it'll be in someone's camp. Like Helmut Marko might really not like Alex Albon anymore. Christian Horner. We've done a video where we unwrap the whole sort of politics.
We tried to unwrap.
Yeah, we tried to. We had a whiteboard out and everything. But yeah, Alex Albon going back to Red Bull.
But then is he going to be like Ricciardo? He's disappeared, come back again. Not the driver he could.
I think Alex Albon is the most sort of, I don't say underrated, but his stock is at the highest, I think, in Formula One, where it's like he seems to be consistently outperforming the car. It's the vibe.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think anyone's going to say Alex Albon hasn't really performed in Formula One over the last
years. He's done wonders.
Yeah.
He's like Russell in the Williams. Exactly. And Albon got pushed into Red Bull too quickly. He didn't have enough experience. He's now had a couple of years to get back into it, to build up his stock, build up his confidence, his knowledge. Going back to Red Bull now could be the right time for him.
You know, the issue with Albon at Red Bull before was he was always getting into instants, unlucky ones, 50-50s, and he was placed as the person in the wrong. He now has so much experience in that insane midfield. But talking about drivers, like I just feel like this Formula One season, it's so hard for drivers in that midfield to get noticed. Because you have it looks like you've got Verstappen, Perez now at the top.
Yeah.
Like Perez has been up there, this season. You got the Ferraris, Leclerc, Sainz will come back presumably. Then you got the McLarens. You've got Piastri, Norris, and you've got Mercedes, Hamilton, and Russell. And then after that, it's just you're not left with any big finishes left, really. That's 5 teams, 10 places. That's all your points. So if one of those drivers, let's leave aside the Ferraris and the Red Bulls. Let's say they're you've got Red Bull and Ferrari. Is it if Lando Norris gets 5th, is that great? If Hamilton gets 5th, is that great? It's sort of a bit of a mushy position, I think.
Yeah, it's all weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all weird, and then
where are these big standout results going to come from? Like Mark Webber getting 6th in the Minardi. I just don't see it.
But then that comes back to what we spoke about last week with the cars being too reliable nowadays as well. You don't get these big, like you said, you don't get these big results happening. Like if Stake, let's just say Bottas in the Stake, all of a sudden everyone ahead, he's having a great race. He's the fastest mid pack, and a couple of the front runners, he could be there for like a 4th. But because the cars are so reliable now, it doesn't happen.
I feel like it's a great result if someone like Bottas gets a P9,
Yeah.
or Guan Yu Zhou a P9, or a Gasly P9, and you always have to really look for it through the headlines. But yeah, interesting to see. I don't know if you have any more thoughts about F1 at the moment, Sam. As we go into Australia, it's going to be a 4 a.m. start. I'll be doing the watch along live on my channel. But we said every podcast so far, Max Verstappen just dominating, and who would frankly bet against him in Australia?
Well, exactly. I mean, Perez last year they were saying, "Oh, street circuits, that's him." It's not going to make a difference. I think Max, my prediction, Max, Leclerc, and I think actually Piastri's going to get a podium.
Wow, home
boy. I think he'll get a podium.
We'll see. McLaren are there or thereabouts. Can they get up and sort of really challenge those Ferraris? I don't know what the news is on Carlos Sainz, to be honest.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask you earlier. Is he back? Is he not back?
I think it's very coy at Ferrari. Obviously, he made that big show by hobbling around the paddock. I'm back, but you look weak, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Carlos Sainz. Where does Carlos Sainz go in Formula One? We haven't even spoken about that. So let us know what questions you have. There's been an F1 Breaking News show. Let us know if you have a name for the show as well. And we will see you next time.